My project, Flexible Working for Office Mothers, is a passionate subject for myself. Being a working mother, I have experienced the benefits that flexible working can bring to my own work-life balance, ensuring I am able to spend as much time with my child as possible. I didn't arrive at this topic without prior consideration into a number of other topics: shark awareness, organ donation, and the pressures of working mothers, which eventually, and after much research, evolved into my final topic of flexible working for office mothers. From this research, I was able to identify a number of issues with previous flexible working campaigns, such as only focusing on the surface issue and using humour within their campaigns. Positively, I was able to find key facts and statistics collected from reliable resources, which these facts would later form key content used within my marketing material. After assessing that there was clear scope to continue with this topic, I completed a target audience image profile based on males and females ages 35 to 54 of manager level or above within white-collar industries. This visual reference has been beneficial to refer back to throughout my project when making design decisions. After many hours of in-depth research, design inspiration and topic reflection, I needed to design a pitch to assess the validity of my project concept with my peers before continuing. I initially didn't understand the importance of creating a pitch so soon. However, now I realise that it is good to gain peer feedback to identify any issues with my concept that I may have missed. This will save time and cost later down the design cycle. As this project was self-initiated, it needed a design brief in which would form the basis of my project. This helped me create designs with purpose and clarity. Upon reflection, I admittedly created a brief that lacked flexibility, as I outlined all final deliverables from the outset, without allowing my own creative freedom to explore other options. However, as this was a self-initiated brief, I also had the flexibility to amend this. That's right, I conducted more research into every possible aspect of my topic I could think of. I understand that design is an iterative process. However, conducting research into many aspects of my project before designing allows me to design with a clear goal. I spent many hours trying out various design elements, shapes and colour combinations. Many were unsuccessful as a whole, but had elements which I could explore further. The assumptions task during part 1 was beneficial to my project, as it allowed me to either validate or question my design decisions so far. Pairing this with a designer audience survey left me with a clear plan to move forward. It was at this point my design idea started to take shape. Even though at this point I had carefully considered designs developing, I needed to be aware of not becoming too attached to these designs, so not to limit my creative abilities. This is when I tested out a number of stylistic designs. AR, QR and holograms quickly became a key element of my designs, packaging and product. So much that I had to test with a designer audience survey the amount of interactive elements that they would want to see. In addition to this, I had made a bold design decision to reflect my bold design style to remove most of the text from my product's packaging, in which this would then be revealed with AR. This was received well by my designer audience survey. Up until this point, hexagons had only been a feature of my product. It was only now that I realised I could extend this to my marketing material for consistency, and also to experiment with material characteristics. This task also helped me to create and form and test a number of key elements which would eventually form part of my final designs, another of which was the concept of using seeded paper. I was surprised at how well my semantic concepts turned out, with a simplistic vector style, polar opposite to my previous designs. This presented me with a difficult design decision to be made. As I had tested such a large amount of designs and design elements, it was imperative that I collected them all into one clear document that I could use to narrow down my ideas, as I moved on from prototype to refinement stage of the design cycle, to help make my final decision as to what design style I continued with. I asked for opinions with another designer audience survey. Once it was identified that I would continue with my photorealism design style, I began carefully selecting what elements to include or abandon within my refined designs. To further my project, I identified that I needed to create 2 pitches, one to secure financial investment and one for potential product buyers. Initially, I did not see the relevance of this task, as I felt I was taking a big step back in the design process. However, after consideration, it's helped me to visualise the emotions that I'm trying to portray through my final designs, and as such I created another flyer highlighting the emotional impact of flexible working on the employee's family. Unfortunately, the shape of the flyer left little room for these additional assets, so I abandoned this concept. Again, for this task, I felt like I was going backwards and not forwards. But the more I tested out variables and assumptions, the more focused and refined my designs became. This design is about refining and then refining again and again and again. The most successful trials were that of using 5 hologram people within my design, using AI to reveal them. Designers often use thinking through making to test out concepts, and as my flyer designs had almost reached its final version, I decided to conduct this task on my public interactive display. Drawing quickly identified to me that there were still many other design layouts I needed to explore. I did this with the making technique of collage, which then progressed onto digital designs. Another area I needed to explore further is that of AR and holograms, especially as holograms are a key component of my product. However, as I lacked the physical technology to create actual hologram concepts, I used the method of modelling to visually show my ideas. Another positive outcome from modelling was that I was able to redesign and restructure my previously abandoned build your own plan prop design, including the manager and meeting table. I chose to explore editorial choices with my product instruction booklet, as this was the only area that I had not previously explored in depth, and with many iterative refinements. As my booklet didn't have many elements to remove, I found this section hard to complete. However, I was able to identify that I did not need to display all of the statutory information, and instead could link this back to my website to host. This helped improve the overall design, offering more space for key information to be added. Considering the ethical implications of my own projects allowed me to refine my flyer concepts further to include a wider diversity of cultures, ages and ethnicities. And as such, I reduced the chance of unintentionally hurting a member of my target audience. The research into First Things First manifesto really made me question my own ethics, coming to realise that it is okay to have aspiring ethics. However, to keep in mind that you may be held accountable for previous design ethics at any given time. Drafting a timescale for the theoretical production of my project was a lot harder than expected, as I realised that I did not have the required depth of knowledge of product design. However, with some time-consuming research, I was able to identify a number of key elements that I would need to consider for my project, that being obtaining patents and trademarks, employing a legal team from the beginning of idea conception, and not forgetting to plan and contact manufacturers, transport and logistics. The use of seeded paper seriously limited my printing options. However, this was not an issue, as many of the printing techniques that were not suitable were that of special effects such as spot UV or embossing. Additionally, seeded paper is costly, and as a result, my investors may require cost justification. Seeded paper has a number of benefits. It's novel, supports my main message of growing together, and targets my audience's personal interests as identified from my own designer audience surveys. During this question, I identified that my hexagonal poster shape would not be suitable to go into magazine due to the awkward white space that it creates. Therefore, I redesigned a rectangle version. My main online strategy is to use social media. However, I quickly identified that I needed to push this strategy further and decided to create supporting web banners and allow my digital animations to be used on websites also, as opposed to purely being used on social media. Public environments play a major role in my campaign strategy, as they help to increase my message's reach through strategically placing my brand's messages and marketing material in public environments that receive a high amount of footfall, with the aim to make the public's environmental experience better. However, I identified a range of futuristic ways to push the strategy further, that being using the hologram people as a wayfinding system, either as VR images or actual hologram projections. I have chosen to use AR, QR codes and websites, social media and public interactive digital installations within my project, all which have the ability, if used correctly, to gather useful data analytics with regards to my project. My original brief did not include public installations as a requirement. However, over the course of the module, research and for a number of experimental public installation designs, I have come to realise that the addition of a public installation will be beneficial for the spread of my project's message. I decided to have my installation as a temporary fixture to employ a limited edition marketing strategy. This should encourage my audience to use my public installation before it moves on. Another form of public interaction, as inspired by my modelling trials, would be to have a giant hologram figure taken from my manager and meeting table design to serve as a form of education. This would also move around as it would be too costly to manufacture a large quantity. This question taught me the importance of measuring the impact of a project, something which I had subconsciously considered. However, it would have been better if I had consciously considered this from the start, to be able to fully build into my concepts a method for data collection and user feedback to enhance the ongoing developments of my project. This project has allowed me to complete in great detail a full professional body of work that follows the design process in its entirety. By completing a brief myself, I understand the importance of clarifying any brief with a client to be able to meet their expectations. Having already been very comfortable with the design process in terms of slow and steady refinement through exploration and design trials, I therefore found the final research questions of greater value. These questions allowed me to reflect, consider and experiment in depth, areas that I previously hadn't thought of, allowing me to complete and close the whole design cycle.